And then I forgot the significance of the sturgeon moon last night, but it was pretty.
Well, I mean, you can like throw together all sorts of confluences, and it's always going to be historic. The no, I won't go there. My wife will kill me. every once in a long while, the pieces just come together. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
So, but we better roll some music before
Let's
we
roll
forget.
some music.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Shiftless. We're pushing through the dog days of summer, surrounded by dogs.
It's really not that bad today. I mean, not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
It's going to be, but no, this is I wouldn't call it pleasant, but it's not uncomfortable.
Right. It's the humidity's been lower, which has been helpful. But
Well, when it's 107 degrees, it just burns off.
burns it off. Yeah.
And we are starting to get the red flag warnings for
Oh yeah.
grass fires and all that good stuff.
As a matter of fact, we went to Hutchins last night to check it out, and then on the way home on 377, there was a fire engine on the opposite side of 377, and they had their hose out, and they were hosing stuff down. It was nighttime. We were just driving by 55. Couldn't really tell if they were actually putting something out or if they were just watering grass, burning off water or something. I don't know.
Well, I guarantee you they were putting something. I'm driving up this morning, every literally quarter mile, there was a burn patch in the median on the interstate. So we're
You
at
think those are control burns?
Oh God, no. It's just a small stretch. So it's sparks from chains, it's cigarettes, it's all that stuff.
Yeah.
Somebody with a flat tire that pulls off into the grass, catalytic convert. Oh man, we had that happen to us one year. I can't even remember, some sort of school function, science fair or something like that. But Saturday at some junior high in Mansfield, middle school in Mansfield sort of thing. And so, all the parking for the parents is...
What in the world? Lucky. Stepping on the gutter.
They were
Downspout.
They were parking us in the field behind the gymnasium sort of thing. And it was just one of those things. All of a sudden, we just see smoke coming out from under one of the minivans there. And all the soccer moms and soccer dads go running to all their minivans. And we got there in time because it wasn't very high, but it was very dry grass.
Yeah.
And it was amazing how fast that spread. But it was so low that it just burned itself off almost immediately.
Wow. Yeah, we were talking about that last night because this kid that's staying with us is from California. And we were talking about the fires that, there are wildfires out there and how quick they can spread and how fast they move, jumping roads and everything else.
Right.
And it was just insanity. And then he said, do you guys do controlled burns here? And I go, I don't think so, except for maybe sometimes some of the state parks and stuff.
Well, I mean,
national forests.
We're back to Texas, so there's no public lands.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of stuff to get controlled burns, but they do, like they were doing controlled burns out at grasslands in the spring.
Yeah.
They do them at the state parks for sure.
Yeah.
I assume it happens in the national forests as well, but I haven't spent hardly any time in those, so I can't speak to that specifically. But I know national forests generally do controlled burning, so it happens. But there's not a lot of wilderness in Texas to worry about stuff like that, and grass fires are almost all private land. So now some of the landowners will do controlled burns. They'll do that when the conditions are right, or they'll mow their stuff down, or they'll take the bush hog out there and do it all around the perimeter of their property and cut that super low, so if a fire does come along, it doesn't jump onto their property, hopefully, sort of thing.
That makes sense.
So, but we just don't have the fuel here. We don't have the forest and the trees and
Yeah.
so forth for a big.
I mean, in East Texas they do.
It's pine trees.
Yeah.
And it's not, quite frankly, not as dry there, typically speaking.
Yeah.
So
Pine trees explode though. They're crazy.
Oh man, yeah. You want to get a crazy fire going throw what do they call it, the leader root on the pine tree? I can't remember.
I don't know.
It's not heartwood. Something like anyway.
Oh, you're talking about
Lighter.
fatty pine.
Lighter. It's the lighter. They call it lighter stock because you just take a. It's like it's the taproot on a pine tree, and it's so soaked with all of that resin. It's almost like gasoline soaked wood already.
I've dealt with fatty pine before, where it's sap laced pine, and you use it for fire starters and stuff. Yeah.
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 Same thing. Probably just different. It's like chest pie.
Yeah. Ugh.
So what else is going on in Brad world?
Man, just thinking about bike packing lately. Thinking about getting away from here. Thinking about throwing stuff on my bike and riding for a couple of days. And
That's a good idea. Anything particular in mind?
no, just
Something that's not 110 degrees?
yeah, and just getting away from everything. Just pedaling and being out in the middle of nowhere. That kind of thing.
I'm ready for a dose of that.
Yeah.
I don't need to have perfect weather for it, but I can't, man, I can't function outdoors when it's this hot.
Shitty weather makes great memories.
Once it's below 90 degrees, I'll give you that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some of my memorable bike packing trips, we got rained on for hours and hours, or slept through rain, or I mean, it's
Some of my best bike rides have been in the pouring rain.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate enough that I'm trying to think if any of it. I think it's all been pretty much dumb luck. I've never had to camp, bike packing or any other camping, in the pouring rain.
yeah. That's always been a fear of mine, is setting up camp in the rain. And every time I pack. Like if I have to pull my stuff out, I pull it out like, okay, obviously, like with a hammock setup, I want to pull my rain fly out first, so I can set my rain fly up. That way, I can set my hammock and stuff up underneath that.
Sure.
I can change clothes or whatever. I always pack like that, but I've been lucky enough to not have to set up in the rain. But it's always been a fear of mine. But
Yeah, I'm not too worried about setting it up in the rain. I just don't like the idea of just being stuck in a tent in the pouring rain for
like a day.
a day.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, because at some point you got to think you're going to go, well, we're going to get wet. We might as well just move. But I don't know. We when Ray Roberts was flooded, when we were running super high water there for I can't remember how long ago that was, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. We did a circumnavigation of Ray Roberts, and we camped. I think the first night there was a flood coming, or thunderstorms coming, I'm sorry. And it was Adam, Shannon, Thornton. I want to say Drumgoole was there, but I don't think he camped with us that night. Maybe he did. We camped at the top of 380, the top of the Greenbelt, right there below the 455 dam, and we camped in the park right there. I mean, I think the statute of limitations is ran. It was one of those things like, hey, we got to find a place to hunker down.
Right,
It's on us.
right.
We stopped by the dam store and got a couple of snacks and some cold beers and stuff, and rode across the dam, and or part of the dam, I guess, and camped. And those guys, I'm thinking Shannon and Thornton for sure just strung their hammocks underneath the canopies there, the little shelters, the
picnic
picnic
shelter
tables,
things.
yeah. And then Adam and I set up kind of over by the creek, like off to the side, like on the off the fishing trails and stuff. And it came an absolute just turd floater. It was insane. One of my guy lines for my rain fly came loose, and it was raining so hard that I did not want to get out of my hammock. And so I was literally sleeping with one hand out of the hammock holding my rain fly so I wouldn't get soaking wet. And bless Adam, he had just gotten a hammock set up without consulting me. And he had these nylon straps that were like a seat belt almost. And so he set up above this briar stuff. And as the night goes on and these straps get wet, yes, he ended up on the ground. So I just hear him over there cussing and like rumbling around in this bramble and trying to figure out how to adjust these straps. And it's in the dark and the pouring rain. And he was just miserable and mad. And I was like, dude. And after that trip, that's when he was like, hey, I need you to help me out with my hammock setup. I was like, gladly. So he's come a long way.
Good.
But that was about the most miserable I think I've slept that I can recall. And even then, we woke up in the morning and it had already passed. Everything was clear. We did wake up to park ranger harassing us, and so I can't remember what we've said, but we played it off, and she was actually cool. Adam and I just stayed in the woods. She didn't ever even knew we were there.
Right.
Thornton ran point on that, which I don't
like
know.
He always does.
Yeah, I don't know if that was the best thing or the worst thing, but it came out okay.
There's a yin and a yang to it,
Yeah.
for certain. We do not need to get started on Ben stories by any stretch of the imagination.
We don't have enough time for all the Ben stories.
No. I remembered my I don't know, worst is the right word for it. My most memorable weather camping situation was Mr. Waldschmidt and myself down towards Big Bend, and we had gone over to Big Bend Ranch State Park. We had camp set up basically in the area where we'll do Ministry Palooza, north of Terlingua. A friend of ours has some property there that she rents out on Hemp Camp. So we when we're that way, lots of times we'll just stay at Jody's little piece of land, and that's pretty cool. And so we'd set up camp there. We'd gone to Big Bend Ranch State Park to visit Mr. Renninger and get a little more familiar with that lay of land. That's a long trip, just to let you know.
Yeah.
Lots of people are like, oh, well, hey, I'm just doing a quick trip to Big Bend National Park. I'll get the state park. No.
Yeah, that's what Caleb and Shannon and I were talking about going down on Thursday. He said it's like a 2.5 hour drive between the two.
That doesn't even begin to describe and then you're not even in the state park. Then it takes hours of getting into the park stuff too.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying it's not a day trip.
Yeah.
That's a multi-day trip in and of itself. But that's a different thing.
I think Caleb has it all laced together. I'm going to defer to him.
I'm not.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yep. You're doing that on Thursday and then meeting up on Friday?
I think so. I don't know.
Okay. Anyway,
we'll get together.
We'll talk about that another time.
Yeah.
So we come back. We're coming back to Terlingua, and this is a motor vehicle at 80 miles an hour. So, we see a dust storm off in the distance, and it's like, I think that's heading towards our camp. I think it might be. You just see this line, this wall of dust just off in the distance.
Yeah. I've seen that out in West Texas before.
And we were always south of it as we were driving, but we could see the storm, and it was thunder heads. And there may have been a little bit of rain associated. I can't remember for certain. I just remember seeing the wall of dust. And we get to camp, and we see the wall off over here, off to the west, and it might miss us. It might skirt. No. That thing hit us at full force. I mean, we parked the vehicles in front of the tents to try to block the wind.
Yeah.
And tents stayed staked down. That was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But they each had like 80 pounds of sand in them, even after being all sealed up. And I'm still trying to get that sand out of that tent.
That's crazy.
And that was an uncomfortable night's sleep because just every time you turned over, poof. Oh, but that was an amazing night now that I think about it. So I get out of my tent at like 4 o'clock in the morning to do my business. And we're in the middle of nowhere. So it's really nice. You can just stand up in the tent, whip it out, face west, and water the ground.
Do you have to face west?
The door of the tent was facing due west.
Okay. I was wondering if it was an Allah thing or something.
Well, it's
Mecca.
It's like a compass.
Okay.
That's where, looking for the Pacific Ocean, I guess. I don't know. But, so I'm doing my business, and I see this huge fireball going across the night sky. It's like perpendicular up and down, like this big, just slowly going across the sky. Just a straight line with this huge line of fire behind it.
Aliens?
I'm like, what? And so I'm thinking, maybe this is a lucid dream. Maybe I think I'm peeing and I'm actually asleep. I hope.
Now your sleeping bag's wet.
It's like, I hope not, because if that's the case, I've got a tent full of mud now.
Oh, goodness.
And I'm watching this thing going across the sky, and it's absolutely amazing, but it looks like it's moving slow motion, and it's parallel to the horizon. It's not like a shooting star where it's just zip.
Right, just gone in an instant.
It's getting brighter, and it's going from yellow to white, just getting huge, going all the way. And I'm wanting to just turn around and yell at Rich and wake him up and say, "Come see this!" But I'm thinking of a shooting star or something like that, where it's just going to go away. So it's like it's pointless.
Yeah, by the time you stir him, it's gone.
Exactly. So I'm just watching this thing. It's like, it's got to stop sometime, and it never stopped. And it's like, what the hell was that? It was moving so slow, and it was so huge across the sky. I thought it was a comet or something like that at first, but it was just going so slow. It was really weird. And now that I think about it, that was not coming, because the next day is when we went to Big Bend Ranch State Park, because it was like, everybody had to have seen this. It was huge. It was all, we'll get to Terlingua.
But nobody's up and stirring at 4 o'clock in the morning and sober.
Again, facing west.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's like everybody in San Francisco and Los Angeles and San Diego seeing this thing. Where I think the whole...
No way to tell how close you are to it. I mean, obviously, since it's moving that slow, it's got to be a long ways away.
That was my perception.
Yeah.
So the next morning we get up, go to Jackass Flats, tap into their Wi-Fi, and nothing on the news. It's like, man, this was huge. And Rich is looking at, I told him the story. He's like, you're crazy. And so we get to Terlingua, nothing on the news.
That's besides the point.
Well, that's true. We make our way to Big Bend Ranch State Park. I figured David's had to have heard something about it, because it probably went, definitely somebody that was camping at the park. Nobody sees anything about it. It's like, maybe I was dreaming. This is weird. Get home, real internet access, do some Googling, and there's actually a video of it from some party down in Mexico. It was an old Russian rocket that space junk
re-entered.
Yeah, space junk, and it just re-entered, and it's one of those things that like 6 people in the world saw it at 4 o'clock in the morning on November 20th or whatever it was.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Nobody's awake at 4 o'clock in the morning staring at the sky. in an area. I mean, think about the people that are going to be awake at 4 o'clock in the morning. They're in a city. Partying,
No, I get that.
You know,
My perception was it was that big of a thing, where it was probably seen everywhere from Atlanta to Hawaii, sort of thing.
Okay.
That was my estimation.
Yeah.
That was my. I don't know if estimate. That was my presumption. That's a better word. What the actual viewing area of this thing was actually must have been pretty small, because when it showed. So there's websites for everything.
Yeah.
So there's, eventually I found this. I guess it's rocket debris reentry website.
Yeah, there's one that tracks all this stuff and tells you estimated reentry and where it's going to land.
And so
all that
this showed the plot map and where the sightings were, and the sightings were just in the line of where it actually went. So it must have been really low coming through. And
well, I mean, it's got to be if it's breaking through the atmosphere and it's throwing all that flame. All that.
Well,
whatever,
obviously
it's called the reentry. Whatever
debris field or whatever it is, and that, I guess that was that was the thing about it. It was just such a straight line of flame and smoke behind it, that all the way across the horizon.
Yeah.
It was really crazy. Never seen anything like that before.
I love shit like that.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to going down there. I've never been. I want to go and just see the stars and stuff. That's one of the things I'm super excited about.
That is definitely a highlight of it, and that's usually November's usually a better time of year. I don't have it all nailed down.
Yeah.
For like the Milky Way and stuff like that, that may be too early for it. Not exactly sure. But it's always a good time. We've had some amazing night viewing down there, particularly.
It's always a treat.
It's always a treat.
I feel like I get pretty good night views from here.
Yeah, you have no idea.
No, I know. But I mean, occasionally I'm driving through Colorado at night and pull over on the side of the road to pee or something, and I'm always just like,
yep.
Oh my God. I love that overwhelming feeling of like just gazillion stars. It's such a cool view.
What we've run into when we've done some of our Big Bend trips, I'm trying. So I think it's when we stay in the national park that we get more of this, because there's no open fires in the national park, so you can't do a campfire there. Mm-hmm. Which, trust me, I'm a fan of campfires, and that's it. But what no campfires also does for you, that means you have the best night vision possible.
Yeah.
And so, like, when we've been staying at the national park, it's amazing the number of satellites that actually come up.
Yeah.
It's, you can go out on any clear night and, oh, there goes a satellite right there. That's kind of, when you're down there, it was like every 30 seconds, there goes another satellite there.
Yeah.
And it's not Starlink stuff either, because you'll see the trails of those as well, but they're going all the different directions.
Yeah, that's a trip.
And one night, I'm guessing it was the ISS.
Mm-hmm.
We're not sure, but coming west to east again, we just saw this super bright light coming over the horizon. I think the sun had just set. Maybe there was a little bit of twilight off to the west.
Mm-hmm. Just
a super bright light, just like barreling at us. But as it moves across the sky, it just gets smaller and smaller. And it was moving real steady. So I think it was the ISS, and it was just picking up that reflection off the last remaining sun as it was going over the horizon.
Oh, that's why it was so bright coming up over the horizon. Yeah. I've seen the space station a couple of times. When I was in summer camp out in East Texas, we used to go out at night and lay on the dock and watch the stars, and it was amazing. Like you said, you'd see satellites way more frequently than you ever thought you would, but shooting stars too.
Yeah.
We'd go out there. A lot of times we'd go out there when it was going to be a meteor shower night, and we'd see like 15, 20 shooting stars, in one little 3-hour session. The other thing we did as devious teens is there was a lot of bats that used to fly over the dock for whatever reason, and we'd take aluminum foil and ball it up and throw it up, and the bats would run into it. We're such idiots. I don't know why I remember that.
I'm not going to laugh at that.
I've always been an idiot.
I'm not going to laugh at that.
It was amusing as a 10-year-old, 12-year-old kid.
Maybe. I've always been fascinated by bats.
Me too. In fact, I was literally yesterday looking at installing a bat box in my backyard, but I didn't know how productive it would be because I don't think I've ever seen any bats in my yard. Nor did I. Then I thought about, well, if you put a bat box up, it's not like they get a mailer. Like, how do they know that there's a bat box in my yard? How do I get it populated? So then that kind of put a squash on my thought process, because I was like, well, I'm just gonna hang a bat box and it's gonna get infested by spiders and shit. Like, maybe somebody knows. I don't know. I was like, I really want to put a bat box up for mosquitoes and stuff like that. Sure. But then I was like, well, if I put it up, how do I know there's going to be bats in it? And how many bat boxes do I need for my size yard? And where do I put it? Those are my questions.
So the bat box website doesn't tell you all that stuff and answer.
I don't know.
I
was just on Amazon looking.
Gotcha.
I rarely get analysis paralysis, but that's where that came to a head right there. I was just like, I could buy a bat box. I could hang a bat box, but how do I get bats in my bat box? And then I started looking, and there's bat attractant for your bat box. It's literally like a spray.
Okay.
But it's like $27 a spray bottle. I'm like, well, what is this? How hard is it to get bat urine? Because that's immediately where I went. I was like, well, what's going to attract a bat?
Well, you can milk anything, Brad.
Allegedly. No, but I literally just hit a wall. I was like, well, maybe I'm not going to do this. As we were riding the other day, on Sunday, we went for a ramble, and we rode by a couple of bat boxes, and I was like, that's what sparked the thought process.
My understanding, but I am definitely not an expert, and I don't know this is a subject that we need an expert edition on, but maybe we do. My understanding is just the nature of the box itself. Bats are generally more prolific than you can even comprehend. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things, if you put something out that fits for a bat roost, just as a sheer numbers game, they're gonna find it eventually, naturally. I mean, does it happen the first day? Probably not. But I guarantee you've got bats zipping around in here that you don't even know about.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Of thing. So just if there's a place they can set up, they'll find it. And realistically, if bugs are finding it, that's probably going to make it more likely the bats are going to find it too.
That's a fair point. Okay. Operation Bat Box commences then.
Yeah, I don't think there's a downside to it. I don't think you need to invest in the bat attractant, though.
I don't think so either. I think that's a contingency thing.
We'll find a bat and milk it if we need to.
Oh goodness. I wanted to keep talking about bike packing.
Let's.
What was your first bike packing trip? And then I want to talk about our bike packing trip that we went on, where we met up with Mr. Ryan Williams.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that one.
I do remember that one. Actually, I think about that one on a regular basis.
Yeah.
There was some really good and some not so good to that one. Man, what was my first bike packing trip?
Because I remember when we were running roads and you were trying out bike packing stuff. It's funny how you've kind of come full circle. You were running Panniers back then, and you were testing those out.
Yep.
That's when we rode from the Cracker Barrel area that time, and we were dragging Andrew Heineman with us, Country Club.
Yeah, we went up to that Horseshoe Bend area and all that, up to the Red River.
Yeah. And that was like when we were still kind of...
I got shot at there, too.
Not that time.
Not that time.
Yeah.
A different trip.
But I think that was before you ever put on an event, wasn't it?
It wasn't before I put on an event, but it was before I put on any bike packing stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what I was. So that's what I was trying to think about. So, yeah. So that one. Well, we'll go back to Ben.
Mm-hmm.
So that setup was my Peace Niner.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I remember that bike.
With an Old Man Mountain rack.
Yes.
And that's what Ben was recommending at the time, was the Old Man Mountain racks, because they're basically they were the only thing that put up to
Crazy kids.
They were the only thing that held up to mountain biking stuff, supposedly. And I think you were able to do a disc brake setup, and there was other pieces to it too.
Yeah.
One of those things.
It's funny. Thornton led us to so many different things.
He is the king of fad.
He's. I mean, he's always looking down the road, going, "Hey, this is coming. This is what's hot.
I don't dispute that.
Yeah.
And some of it's, for me, some of it sticks, some of it doesn't.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, he points me in interesting directions.
Sure.
But I have to find my own solutions that are appropriate for me after that.
Sure. But between him and Ryan Williams, I have all the firsthand research knowledge of every piece of equipment I ever want to encounter. Like
okay, I can see that.
If I'm ever thinking, like, I could probably call Williams and ask him about bat boxes, and he'd give me the complete rundown.
There is a high likelihood of that.
But, every time I ever think, like, just name a piece of outdoor equipment, I'll reach out to Williams and go, "Hey, buddy, what do you think about this?" And he'll go, "Oh, don't buy that, buy this," because, he's already ran down all the rabbit holes. And that's the same thing with Thornton. He's those guys are... It's a sickness with some people where they, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but where they just go down every rabbit hole.
Sure.
Even if that's like shopping for motorcycles online, you just go through and run all the comparisons and contrasts and stuff, and just form all these opinions without ever touching anything. Some people just love to run down that rabbit hole. Me, I'm kind of do it sometimes, but I defer to other people a lot too.
Right.
So.
I honestly can't remember what my very first bike packing trip was. I think it was Lake Murray State Park.
Surely you did an overnighter or something just to kind of test the waters. You didn't pedal from the house and just ride 10 miles and camp, or?
No, that's not my style.
Yeah.
So like, I think what I did was Lake Murray State Park. We'll let the plane go over.
Hey, you're messing up our podcast.
Lake Murray State Park. I set up camp there, broke camp, and pedaled to the other side of the lake. Well, I pedaled the dirt roads around there and then set up camp. So that was kind of my short trip, try it out sort of thing.
Still with a little bit of a safety net, because you drove there presumably.
Yeah. I definitely drove there, and it was to try out the camping aspect of it. So
always been a tent camper, by the way.
Okay. Kevin don't camp was my motto for a very long time.
Really?
Yes. My idea of camping was the Hampton Inn. I never
Okay, Bear Grylls.
I never went camping as a kid. That was just outside my family's scope of the closest I came to camping was, we'll throw sleeping bags out in the backyard with a group of friends on a summer night sort of thing.
Just cowboy camp?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So camping was not in our family's framework whatsoever. Generally speaking, I was not an outdoors guy until I started riding a bike as an adult. In general, Jan and I, when we first got married, her family was big into camping and outdoors and so forth. So, I think we got a bunch of camping stuff as wedding gifts, or maybe it was gift cards that she turned into.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to go camping.
Right.
It's like, okay. And I had no concept of what camping was. And our first camping trip was Manatee River State Park in Florida. And we go to this state park, tent camping area, and there's like 50 other people there in this small area. Everybody's setting up. It's noisy as shit.
Yeah.
There's no privacy.
Yeah.
That's
not fun.
And it's like, what? And it was hot. It was humid.
Yeah.
It's Florida night. And, we go to bed down, and everybody zips up, and the place just gets raided by hundreds of raccoons.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And that was my first real camping experience. And it's like, I ain't doing that no more.
Yeah.
And so started doing.
Well, that's not the best experience.
No, it wasn't.
Obviously.
It wasn't. But so it wasn't anything that was on my radar.
Yeah.
And I started doing the rat stuff and laying out the route, and associated with that, I needed to start doing some camping and stuff like that.
So wait. I just want to stop and talk about that for a second. You're putting together a bike packing route that has aspirations to be 1,000 miles, and you're still not a camper?
Correct.
That's interesting to me.
Okay, well, let's go through the logic of Rat 1.
Uh-huh.
The logic of Rat 1.
It was meant to be hotel.
No. We stayed the overnights were state parks.
Okay.
Okay. Where there wasn't a state park, like we made special accommodations with the cities for city parks and so. Mm-hmm. So we had group camping set up.
Yeah.
So that was my first experience with camping, was these group camps for the Rat that I arranged. Because, again, remember, the first time we did the Rat, I had no concept that people would try to ride 30 hours at a time before they stopped. The expectation was that we were going to ride together as a group. Yeah, different people are riding different paces, but we're all going to stop at the same spot together each night, was kind of the general idea. Yes, if Kevin and Josh want to go out on their own thing, mm-hmm. and they're backcountry experienced and they're comfortable, yeah, go sleep in the ditch too. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
You're not obligated to, but the expectation was that 80% of the people would do it this way.
Yeah.
And some wild ass folks would do something else. And the wild ass folks did do something else.
How well did that go to plan first year?
Actually pretty well.
Yeah.
We had a pretty, and it's actually, for lack of a better term, everybody's got different things they want to do, but we kind of call it our stage group. Mm-hmm. It's still the same general concept of the main group does this 125 to 150 mile day sort of thing, and if we're doing the stage race, it still works that way, where this is our stop point for the day, and we're going to start from the it's a natural break for most people that are attempting something like this. It's a stretch for some. It's a stretch for a lot of people. There's no doubt, but it's doable, sort of thing.
It's not a stretch if you're Rich Waldschmidt,
Exactly.
If you're 95 beats a minute.
Yeah, I think he might have tweaked it up to 96, 97.
Oh shit!
For that one,
he's going zone 3.
I tell you what. So that's where I started getting associated with camping, but Kevin still stayed at the Hampton Inn as much as he possibly could. It's just been an evolution from there as I started going out and doing more of this backcountry exploring for Over the Top, for Spinistry Palooza, for our Big Bend adventures. I would get further and further away from Hampton Inns.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, I got to start doing some actual camping here and there.
Yeah.
And that's been an evolution really for the past 10 years.
Yeah.
And still, quite frankly, until fairly recently, and don't get me wrong. Well, and back when you could find a Hampton Inn for $100 a night, it was a different thing. Yeah. Now you can't find a Hampton Inn for under $200 a night. But I'll still do a shower and a porcelain toilet and an air conditioner if given the opportunity.
You don't like the stainless steel state park bottomless pit toilet?
I'll do that. I'll do that, but
With the hot air rushing up your ass? You don't like that?
It's better than some alternatives.
Yeah, that's true.
I'll give it that.
So what about car camping? Do you do any car camping?
I do that on a fairly regular basis now,
Yeah.
and that's so. Here's where my biggest evolution along those lines has been for the past couple years. Is I was introduced to the Xped Megamat.
Mm-hmm.
It is absolutely the best way imaginable to sleep on the ground, but it doesn't work for bike packing. It's
Yeah.
too big of a mattress.
Is it inflatable?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they're fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's the most comfortable sleep I've ever had.
So before we get into sleep systems and stuff, we got to clarify something. Back sleeper, side sleeper, stomach sleeper?
Yes.
All of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
At various times. Generally speaking, a side sleeper.
Okay. Yeah.
Generally speaking.
That's a critical point of discussion when you talk about sleep systems.
Sure it is.
You know.
Sure it is.
So. Okay.
But generally speaking, a side sleeper. But if that's not working, I can sleep on my back.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be a stomach sleeper, but
Yeah.
as I get older, that doesn't work as well.
Same here. Yeah.
I kind of miss it actually.
Yeah.
But
I tend to sleep like a vampire almost. No. Yeah.
well, we're back. I'll never be able to do a hammock, but that's a different
Don't
issue.
say never. Kevin.
No, I've tried it. It will not work for me. I guarantee it.
Have I already asked you this? Have you been in like a real hammock?
I'm claustrophobic, so I can't even do sleeping bags. I have to do quilts.
The layers of Kevin.
They get deeper, and that's another thing. The claustrophobia has gotten, I guess you could call it worse, but it's just gotten progressively deeper over time. But I think some
Is
of
that
that
rooted in something? Was there some kind of trigger or something?
No,
that
I don't.
caused you to be
No,
claustrophobic?
no, I know I can definitively say no on that because I didn't even know I had it for the longest time. I didn't realize that it's one of those things. You'll avoid stuff, but you're not really even conscious of it, sort of thing.
Like elevators? You freak out in elevators?
I do now.
Do you?
I didn't used to. I did get stuck in an elevator, and that did take it up a notch.
But you were claustrophobic before then.
I can look
Certain.
back. I can look back on it now and know that yes, I was before then.
It always intrigues me because I have zero claustrophobia.
It's
I say zero.
the reason I know it is actually that it's genetic because once I realized I was claustrophobic, then I found out my dad is as well. And we have exactly the same triggers. And the same stuff just gives us the heebie-jeebies just even thinking about it, sort of thing. But this was when I was well into adulthood and didn't even realize I was truly claustrophobic. And that's the worst part of it.
Excuse me. Sorry. I don't have a cough button over here.
That's fine. That's fine.
You know, tinfoil hat real quick, sidebar.
Yeah.
You know, I firmly believe that some things have genetic imprints on our brain that jeez, that we don't even understand. Like that could be trauma from 20 generations ago. Like, and the prime example is somebody was talking about this recently that I was listening to. They're talking about when you're walking outside and you see a shadow come over you, like whether it's a bird or whatever, it freaks you out and you have to look.
Right.
That's because we used to be hunted by flying predators or have to worry about stuff over our head or, you know, stuff like that.
Sure.
And then monsters under the bed, that kind of thought process, all that comes from us not being top tier, you know, from us being preyed upon by animals that we couldn't protect ourselves against. And so it's not that we deal with it currently, but we still have that imprint on our brain. And I think that claustrophobia may be part of that too. Like,
I agree. I
like
agree.
maybe your ancestors forever ago had to hunker down in a cave, for, weeks or months or years or, it's just a little, like I said, just a little quick sidebar. I just think it's interesting thought process.
No, I'm a firm believer in the lizard brain. There's stuff we do that we have no control over. Well, I take that. We do have control over it.
Right.
Once you're conscious of it, once you're aware of it, you can force yourself to push through it.
Sure.
It doesn't mean that you're going to beat it, though.
Right.
It's still a burden to
Sure.
deal with one way or another. Now, I think it's rooted in a survival instinct of some sort for whatever reason, but who knows the whys and the wherefores. And that kind of touches on I was better when I wasn't aware, because now that I'm aware of it, now you're paranoid about getting triggered. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy to some extent. And there's other anxiety. It's all an anxiety thing that feeds on itself.
You should take more medicine.
I'm one of those that I'm ready for microdosing to start being legal and get some proper therapy along those lines, sort of thing. Nope, don't say anything.
I'm not gonna say. I'm not gonna say anything. I mean, who do you have to answer to, Kevin? I mean, it's not like you're gonna injure yourself and file workman's comp and they're gonna drug test you.
I would, based on my own anxieties.
Oh, yeah, your paranoia.
I would like to be in the hands of a professional.
Oh, that's fair.
That's all I'm saying.
Fair.
There's no judgy. There's no I'm scared of being thrown in jail. No, I'm scared of my own anxieties. So I would want to be in the loving arms of a professional, caring person.
I'm just going to make a very quick analogy for you. Microdosing is akin to like having a couple of sips of whiskey and then being done with it. Except for the sips of whiskey last a little bit longer. It's not like you're going to... It's not like you're shooting 6 shots of whiskey and then sitting there.
I understand that. I understand.
It's a different animal.
I understand all of that, and I don't dispute all of that. And one session may be enough for me to go, okay, training wheels are off now, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I need training wheels.
That's fair. With a lot of things, you need training wheels. With camping, apparently.
Yeah, you do. And that's so along those lines. I think we've touched on this before. I'm not big on point-to-point bike packing just for the sake of bike packing. That's not Is it something I'll do? Sure. I would much rather just set up camp in a centralized spot and ride my bike all day and come back to my camp that's already set up and next day.
I'm completely the opposite.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Different strokes for different folks.
Because there's an allure to finding that spot, to setting up camp, everything coming off of your bike.
To me, that's all a beating.
That's to me, it's part of the. I don't know. There's a certain level of gratification because all of this. And I can't speak for everybody that bike packs, but I know that myself, and quite a few of the guys that I go bike packing with regularly, there's this 2-week lead in to where you're contemplating everything. You're making sure you have all your equipment. You're, making sure.
I get all of that.
I
don't disagree.
There's a level of gratification for having all that stuff on your bike, getting to your campsite, and I say campsite loosely, but in producing this stuff off your bike and it all coming together the way you have envisioned it. And then the next morning waking up and having breakfast over the fire. And there's something also cathartic about putting all that back on your bike and it fitting the way it was. And then getting on your bike and riding away from that spot and doing it again. I love it.
And I don't dispute that.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I hate it.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly fine doing that.
I would argue that there's less adventure for hubbing like that.
Different folks like different adventures.
Yeah. Some people like their cucumbers pickled.
Some do.
Yeah. But to me, it's.
You're getting all judgy here, Brad.
I'm not being judgy.
You're getting preachy and judgy.
No.
You're a gatekeeper, Brad.
Not my intention. Not my intention at all. It's just I'm trying to compare your thought process to my thought process because, as much as we get along so well, we have different viewpoints about a lot of stuff. I don't think that's what makes it fun.
I agree.
But
I agree completely.
Like the hub camping spot, to me, it makes sense if you're just gonna like go out and explore a little bit of stuff. But I don't think that, in my mind at least, there's not as much of a venture involved, because you don't have to get to this spot. You can always just ride 3 miles and turn around and come back, or you can ride 40 miles and turn around and come back. Whereas if
you can do a 150-mile loop.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the way. Again, when I go out on my bike for the day, I like to have more saddle time.
Yeah.
So if I don't have to set up and break camp every morning and every night, that's more pedal time. That's the lot, and so that allows me to see more while I'm out on my bike, and that's for me. Not being judgy, not being preachy, not telling anyone else how to have fun on a bike.
Like me?
I'm not saying that.
That you already did, you bastard. Don't back out of it now.
For me,
I see the logic in that.
That's how I enjoy. I'm an explorer.
Maybe I'm in the minority on this.
I'm not saying you are. I'm saying there's different ways to approach it.
Yeah.
And none are wrong, none are right. It's like.
Is that what we're going to do when we go to Big Bend?
No.
No.
That'll be well, kind of yes, kind of. So you'll have a staging camp Friday night, and you're welcome to leave stuff up there if you want to, or just you'll leave your vehicle there for sure.
Yeah.
Assuming that you drive there. And then I
was going to ride down there.
I've got a route, so I can get you there.
What is it, like 700 miles from here?
It's 1,000 miles.
1,000 miles.
Starting at the Red River just above 4R. That's my Tasha Heritage Trail. Well, it won't be 1,000 miles to there, because it's 1,000 miles all the way to the Rio Grande. So it would be to there 9:20ish.
Let's see what I can do.
So, but anyway, man, where was I? What was I talking about?
Hubbing.
So it's not. Yeah, it's not. So Spinistry Palooza is we overnight at Jackass Flats Friday night, go on a 50-ish mile route to Terlingo Ranch Lodge property, and that's Saturday night, and then Sunday night come back to Jackass Flats.
Okay, so it's an out and back basically.
No, it's a loop.
Oh, okay, a loop, yeah.
It's a loop.
I'm excited. I can't wait. But just for clarification, hammock is a no-go, right?
I can't think of anywhere to put one up.
Okay, I have a tent lined up. I have one of my buddies, our buddies, big red-headed individual with a big, glorious, beautiful beard.
Beautiful beard.
He told me I could use his big Agnes UL1, I think, and footprint. I've just got to figure out a pad situation.
Well, considering that you are doing the semi-supported option, I can take one of my extra X-Peds for you.
Oh, I'd love to try it, yeah.
I got you covered.
Yeah, because I have a problem sleeping on the ground. That's one of the reasons I sleep in a hammock.
So I will bring, I have 3 X-Peds now.
I only need one.
I understand.
Yeah.
The latest one I got is their smallest one. Still not appropriate for bike packing.
Who makes this? Is Exped?
Exped's the company.
Okay.
Swiss.
I need to
Swedish.
check them out because they're not that. So I don't, as a hammock camper, I don't ever use pads. I have some old like Thermarest pads, the semi-inflatable, self-inflating ones, but they're, they may get to like an inch thick, so they're not like super comfortable anyways.
I mean, and I do have an Exped. I do have a regular like Thermarest. Big Agnes.
Yeah.
Bike packing one as well.
I haven't been down that rabbit hole. That gear.
So, Jan Bennett was the one that told me about them because when Jan and I went out, Jan, Rich, and Dravecki and Jesse, and we'd all go out and do our explorations and scouting for all this stuff.
I miss Dravecki
tremendously.
Yeah. Gone but not forgotten.
Jan was familiar with my sleeping on the ground issues. I could not find a mat that worked for me, and I was doing air mattresses and stuff because when we'd be car camping, so I could try all sorts of things. And so she's telling me about
Have you tried a lightweight cot?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she's like, no, Exped Megamat, it's the best sleep you'll ever have.
Okay.
Jesse Langster said this. I don't know if you know Jesse or not. He said the same thing. So I ordered one, and it's true. It's the best sleep I've ever had. It's better than any of the beds in the house. It's fantastic. I can sleep on the ground anytime now, as long as I have that.
How much does something like that run a guy like me?
I think the Megamat, the thick one, is it 10 inches when it's inflated?
10 inches thick?
It might be 7, but
that's a freaking mattress.
It's an air mattress, but it's a foam air mattress. So.
Yeah, no wonder it's not bike packing friendly.
No, we're not going to pretend it is.
Yeah. So I'm curious why it was even on Jan Bennett's radar.
Because she does regular camping too.
Oh, does she?
She does car camping. And,
okay.
Going with the family and the dogs places and stuff like that, and it's not a backpacking or bike packing mattress by any stretch of the imagination, but it allows me to. I used to have that. You remember that tiny camper I used to have? Love that thing. Miss it. I wish I'd have never sold it.
You checked the fuses?
Oh, that's right.
Of course, I remember it.
I forgot about that.
Vic Dean commented on one of my pictures the other day about make sure you check the fuses. Every time I think of any troubleshooting, it's always just check the damn fuses first. I
think it was the bulb on that one, actually.
Yeah, I think it might.
I think we looked at it. No, it's good.
Yeah.
But anyway, So I used to just take that everywhere with me.
Yeah.
It was just so simple. Drop the trailer, throw in a mattress.
Yeah.
And I'm good to go.
I could see that. I could see that for certain.
Oh, that was, and maybe that's where I got in the habit of my hub camping.
Yeah.
Like that as well.
I could see where that would ingrain it. That makes sense, though.
So I started there, but that didn't work for when Jan and I went on trips, or we wanted to take the dogs with us, or anything like that. So I sold that one just before COVID, and got a 20-foot camper, and I love it.
Yeah, does the hassle change when you go from the smaller camper to the bigger camper in the sense of getting ready for a trip? Because it seems like campers, I've never owned a camper, but it seems like they're a lot of trouble to prep for.
It can be. So the system that I have developed, because I have done, over the past 10 years, I have done a bunch of camping. Just not a bunch of point-to-point bike packing. And so I've just got it down to a system where I'm going camping on the bike.
Tote. Yeah.
Here's I'm going car camping in the tent. Tote.
Yeah, I have the same system.
Here's my we're going for a long weekend in the camper.
Yeah.
Tote.
Yeah.
And it's just grab and go.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. And it's actually kind of most of that stuff. It's like, well, it all go. If I go with the camper, all three of those totes are going with me.
Right. It's modular. Yeah. Same. I have a very similar.
So
system.
from my perspective, no, I can. If I'm going camping, if I'm leaving tomorrow to go camping, I can just go home and half hour I've got everything together, ready to go.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Yeah.
I'll double check batteries and make sure
yeah.
my food's not expired and that sort
Yeah.
of thing. But that's pretty much that system. You had asked something specific. And I went
First bike packing trip.
Oh,
that was where we
and
spun off so bad.
That's where we spun off, and I mean, it could very well be that my first true bike packing point to point adventure might have been that Cross Timbers trip.
That was a big push for like a first time, like strapping everything to your bike.
No, well, that's what I'm saying. But no, from your perspective of a point to point, go out on a. I've strapped stuff to my bike and moved from campsite to campsite and stuff and I've overnighted with the equipment and that sort of thing.
Yeah, but just putting all the pieces together.
It's like I said, for me, it was never I'm going to pedal my bike 80 miles and camp tonight. That's never really been
the desire.
My thing. I'm trying to think, and remind me when was that trip? What year was that? That would help me nail it down.
Like maybe 15, 16-ish?
That's probably right, because that's probably when I was starting to train up for my rat run.
Mm-hmm.
So I was starting to do more stuff like that just to prepare myself for the rat.
Yeah.
Would have been the plan. So that sounds right. It was probably 16, maybe early 17.
Wait.
No, it was probably summer of 16, like May or June of 16, probably.
Thornton
right?
met up with us, right, and rode a very short piece.
Oh, that's right. So that.
And
so that.
I'm trying to remember. And then Williams met us there, but he was on his motorcycle. And then actually Williams came and scooped us up.
Yeah, so that was good. So that was after 17.
Yeah. That's what I was just trying to put the pieces together for.
So when was that?
I don't know. I could look through my pictures because I have a picture, but
yeah, we'll edit this figuring it out stuff out because it was after Ben and mine's incidents.
That's not it.
Well, I mean, would it have been shortly after that picture you posted? Of me flipping you the bird?
It could have been right around there.
So that would have.
What a great picture! I love that picture.
The maybe it was prepping for that. Maybe it was maybe September. Going into rat, maybe.
That's possible.
Maybe it was a rat run for me, a dry run for the rat for me.
I'm not finding a picture.
I mean, that's the only thing. I can't even remember. What bike was I on for that trip? I don't even remember.
I think it was your piece, but I'm not entirely certain.
I don't think it would have been the piece. Oh, I bet it was the Stella.
That's probably true, too.
I bet it was the Stella.
Oh, I think I'm about to find. It sounds about right.
That's probably the most realistic scenario, and it was probably a test run for me, getting ready for the rat, and getting back from getting run over.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, that was a really good trip until I got overheated. Then it was a really bad trip.
Well, and we had like 30-mile-an-hour headwinds. Yeah.
Yeah, in the 95-degree heat or whatever it was. And
it was like a convection oven.
It really was. And
but that was a fun trip. And
I had a fantastic time.
And R.I.P. Truman.
Was he with us on that trip?
Yeah, David Hill. Yeah, he was there.
Man, I don't remember
Because
that.
I remember it vividly because that was when he turned me on to my favorite murder podcast, and I went down a complete rabbit hole on that podcast. All thanks to Truman. Truman was one of those guys that he could make you fall in love with something just by talking about it. You know, because you're like, if this guy's into it,
if he's into it, it's genuine.
Yeah.
It's the real deal.
Yeah.
He probably he would be He would be on my most credible sources podium.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and he had a bullshit sniffer on him like crazy. It was you could just tell him something. He go, oh, no.
Yeah. That's why. That's part of why Dave and I got along so well. Our bullshit detectors would go off on the same stuff, and it's like we got to sort this out for folks, sort of thing. Because people like to be bullshitted.
I love to entertain bullshit. It's
troublemaker, you.
Yeah, but I think there's a healthy disposition to at least exploring and entertaining just bullshit. But I also think it's comical, especially when you think, wait, what is the new one? I was just listening to this. Oh, there's a new movement. So you're aware of dinosaurs? I mean, not dinosaurs. That's the one. Dinosaurs aren't real. But birds are fake. You're aware of that?
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Flat Earth.
Yes.
Space is fake.
And at this point,
right.
It's all a cause of some sort.
Yeah.
I get it.
And now there's a new one that people are claiming that dinosaurs weren't real. So I just think all these things are humorous just to...
Well, I mean, to be fair, the evangelicals have always said that, but
so, well, I don't. This could be a whole nother discussion altogether. But I mean, how do you explain fossils if they weren't real? Is there even a logical explanation that makes sense?
It's one of I'm trying to remember one of the justifications I've heard is something along the lines of God does that as a head fake to test who the true believers are. Something along those lines.
Man, I'm going to need stitches for my tongue. Okay, let's leave all that shit alone. That's just it's too much. I have to put this on your radar because I know you're a movie guy. They cloned Tyrone. I don't care what's on your to watch list.
I think I started to watch that and
Jamie Foxx. It's brand new.
Yeah, I think I did. Yes, I started to watch. Is it on Amazon or Peacock?
It's on Netflix.
Netflix.
Yeah.
All right.
Please watch it.
I don't have net. I think it was like the last day of my Netflix subscription.
No, it literally just came out like a week ago.
Nah, man, I saw something on it like a month and a half ago. Maybe it was a weird preview or something like that.
Maybe. I'm fairly certain it's only been out for like maybe a week or 2 weeks.
Okay.
Super good movie. I don't even want to talk about it. It's so good.
Let's not. But so was there? Okay, so you were going off on all these conspiracy theories.
What was our route here?
You were. Have you heard about? Or have you heard the one about what was
dinosaurs are fake?
I thought you said that was another one. I thought you were going to.
There's so many.
Space
is fake.
Okay,
it's crazy to me.
So,
but then again, who am I? I mean, everything could be a ruse. This could be a simulation.
It could be a
very arguably.
I'll argue against that one, but just I think, therefore, I am basicness of it sort of thing. If this is all a simulation, well, then you're never going to know the difference anyway. So
yeah, might as well not worry about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But the rest of it. So I used to kind of be along the same lines as you. Is I don't know if I would say tolerate bullshit. It was like, okay, that's their bullshit. That's their shtick.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, I'll let them go off on that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Just assuming these people were in on the joke themselves and they were just egging people on.
Sure.
I thought there was a lot of poking sticks going on.
Sure.
Then I found out these people really believe this shit.
Yeah. So the only time, so I find it humorous most of the time. The only time that I get concerned is almost like a self-preservation thing, where I get into a realm where I'm like, oh shit, maybe this could be real, and then I start feeling like I'm getting sucked into that thought process.
I get that.
You know,
I get that.
But like when people talk about birds are fake, like that to me is super humorous because it's so preposterous that it's so outlandish. It feels like a large scale troll.
Well, essentially it is.
Yeah.
So
but there are people that buy it whole hog.
Let's take this. And I'm not going political.
Yeah.
I'm just going super simplistic with this.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Keep hearing weird noises. So
I'm interested to hear what you say.
The birds aren't real
Mm-hmm.
has a very similar root to the OK sign. Okay? Where it started as an internet prank.
Mm-hmm. And people took it and ran with it.
And different people took it and ran with it.
Yeah.
And so now there's people that are whole hog into the birds aren't real
Mm-hmm.
conspiracy theory.
It's almost like a social experiment that's only able to be conducted because of the internet.
I wouldn't call it a social experiment. We're back into the realm of grass fires and controlled burns and stuff like that. It's an uncontrolled fire, is for whatever reason.
Well, like I was listening to Rogan, I think his most recent podcast, and he was talking about, I think it was a 4chan thing where they started the whole free bleed free movement or something, and it was basically an internet troll talking about women being liberated and not supporting big corporations, so they weren't buying whatever the
feminine
protection, and so they were bleeding freely to show their emancipation from whatever, and people bought into it, you know, and they were like, oh, let's do this, I'm all about it, and it was just a troll. It was
but
somebody
in turn,
just
something can start as a joke,
sure,
and become reality.
Well, it's, I mean,
like Dirt Dogs.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is now become Spinistry.
Yeah.
Which has now become Shiftless.
That is wild.
That's evolution. That's how the stuff.
Yeah, but I fail to connect the dots with that and flat Earth.
Well,
the whole flat Earth thing blows my mind too. I mean, there's so many, and then that's the part that scares me, is because then I start thinking, well, what if I'm the idiot? What if flat Earth is real? And not that I'm insinuating that it is, but I always have that, self-check in my head where I'm like, well, don't criticize too hard, because you're going to feel like an idiot if it is
real.
Is real. And then I start going down that thought process of, fuck, maybe it is real. And it gets dangerous.
I've got a YouTube channel for you if you're not already aware of it.
I'm not. I mean, I can't think of it.
Well, because I haven't told you the YouTube channel.
Sure.
Yet. It's called the Y Files. Check it out.
YWHY.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I love entertaining nonsense. It's just.
And this guy's approach like some people are into the murder podcast. None of those really do anything for me. I've never been into those, but that's fine. I am a fan of and this definitely goes back to our Sharknado episode. I am a fan of the conspiracy theories from wouldn't it be interesting if?
Yes, I love that stuff. I love entertaining conspiracy theories.
I will I will not just outright. I will not outright dismiss UFOs and aliens. I will not outright dismiss lizard people. I will not outright dismiss Kennedy conspiracies or any of that.
Yeah.
I don't go, I don't just automatically go. There's no way.
Well, you're a fool if you take a standpoint on this stuff and just say this is 100% true, because nobody ever knows. I mean, there's stuff. Speaking of UAPs, one of my group texts this morning, there was a, where is it?
Get off my lawn. They're UFOs.
Yeah, well, okay. Navy's Advanced Aerospace Tech Boss claims key UFO patent is operable. Here's my buddy actually broke it down, Mr. Adam Phillips. He said, TLDR, the Navy has filed patents based on reverse engineered UAP tech. Essentially creates a quantum vacuum around itself that allows it to ignore aerodynamic or hydrodynamic forces and remove its own inertial mass from the equation. Those are a lot of big words. I kind of understand it.
I understand the gist of what
they're retro engineering UFOs.
So what is the source of this information?
That's a good point. It was an article. I haven't read the whole article.
No, I'm not.
TheDrive.com is where the article came from, which I'm not familiar with.
Right, understood.
And it looks like a right-wing website. They just all have the same footprint.
Yeah, it's the Russian templates, but
yeah, and that's the other things. Maybe they're all freaking bots and they're just trolling us. You know, who knows? Everything's a facade.
I can, outside of the simulation aspect of it,
Mm-hmm.
I can assure people that Shiftless is 100% for real and not Russian bots.
Maybe we're both bots.
And we just don't know it because we're simulated bots.
We're AI. Yeah.
Exactly.
We're replicas.
And again,
what was it? Replicants.
Again, going back to the Sharknado episode,
Mm-hmm.
That is my conspiracy theory that I am pretty much whole hog in on. AI has taken over. I'm convinced of it.
Well, I mean, to some extent, yeah, but not like completely taken over.
No, it's.
I think
AI could flip the switch at any time and do whatever it wanted at this point.
Now that's what I can't articulate it well enough, but I definitely feel like the tide is already swollen and it's almost to the point of no return. And so it's just going to continue almost at an exponential.
We're past the point of no return.
Yeah, and that scares me. Scares me a lot.
Maybe not. Who knows?
Depends on whether it's used for good or evil.
So I had to rewatch Her the other night just to kind of get into that mode.
Joaquin can't miss. I love that guy.
He's a very, very interesting actor. No doubt about that. And I think I liked Her the first time I saw it, and it seems even more prescient now.
I need to go back and rewatch it. I hadn't thought about that movie in a couple of years.
It's watching it the other night. It's like they were really ahead of themselves on this one.
There's another movie I watched not too long ago. Her's not the one that actually had the hologram in the room, was it?
Mm-hmm.
That's all just verbal.
That's just Scarlett Johansson talking.
Yeah. So high. I forgot there was another one where he had like a very crafted hologram that was it wasn't Blade Runner, was it? The new Blade Runner with Gosling?
I'm not sure because I don't know where you're going.
Shit, I can't remember. There was a hologram in the room that was projected by. It may have been a Black Mirror episode. I don't know. I watched too much. Shit.
I think Blade Runner did have something like that.
And it had the thing on the ceiling that was followed through the room and projected the hologram down.
I recall what you're talking about. I can't remember exactly, but Blade Runner sounds right. The new Blade Runner sounds right on that one.
It may have been. I can't remember. But that seems highly likely, you know? But there's so many different avenues that the future could hold. Like the whole, I don't think Meta per se is gonna take off the way everybody was banking on it, but I definitely see like the whole Ready Player One thing where people just live in a suit and have all this stimulation that's artificial,
Sure.
but then still have tactile feedback through haptic suits and stuff.
Right.
I totally see that happening. But then again, it may be the complete opposite where we live in a physical world and we have artificial stimulation through like holograms and interactions a la her. So, I mean, it's just, and it's all that's going to be AI generated. I don't think we see a future where AI takes a downturn.
Well, unless
they can't make money off of it.
or just if there's one of those, if there's a Carrington effect, isn't that what it's called? The solar flare thing, where it just wipes out everything electrical based, or
a big badass EMP.
yeah, basically,
Yeah.
Or an asteroid or comet strike or something like that. If something like that happens, maybe that,
Yeah.
if we break the internet at this point, we're hosed. We're not. It's back to the Stone Ages.
I don't think it is. I don't think it'd be as hard of a reset as everybody like.
I think it would be a very,
contemplates.
very hard reset myself. I could be wrong. I don't.
Man, what are people going to do with wireless shifting if the internet breaks? That's why my Fargo is like, I built that thing as
that's my
apocalyptic bike.
I see bicycles as the apocalypse vehicle, quite frankly.
Yeah, and I think that's and this is gonna get even deeper in my weird brain, but that's the other reason that I love like route finding and the rambling style we do, where we put together every type of surface. And we cut through places, we go around places, we go under stuff, all of that translates to navigation in that post-apocalyptic time. Like if you're like in a, just thought exercise, it's just fun to know that I could take my bike and I could ride back roads and every kind of surface that I need to on that bike, and I could take everything off my bike, set up camp, bandit camp, that kind of stuff. I mean, I love that thought process, but, and then also my bike is very serviceable,
Sure.
I don't have electronic shifting. I don't have disc brake or hydraulic disc brakes. It's all cable actuated. So it's hypothetically, it's my go anywhere, do anything, no matter what the world decides to get crazy about.
Yeah, hypothetically, if we had the Carrington effect solar flare thing, I could pack up my bike packing rig and more than likely survive for an extended period of time, with learning how to find food being probably at the top of the list.
Renninger is a great source for foraging. Yeah.
But what I wouldn't be able to, I could take care of myself in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be able to take care of the family in that situation.
Yeah.
That's a different dynamic.
Yeah.
That's a completely different dynamic.
Yeah, it's I think not to say that it's easy, but relatively easy to look after one person, because you can control your emotions, you can focus on yourself, you can take care of your own needs, but when it comes to dispersing that attention to multiple other people that may or may not be as competent as you, it gets a lot more difficult.
Right.
That's the base root of, like, when you go on a bikepacking trip, when it gets beyond a certain number, it becomes unmanageable.
Right.
I mean, when we did
somebody's going to be a major weak link.
Yes. Oh, there's always a weak link. I mean, and sometimes it's yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like when we did Wood Ape Ramble, somebody's going to correct me, but I think we drug 11 people around a barely vetted route, and that was fairly difficult, you know.
Sure.
But inevitably, what happens is, I think there's a breaking point to where the group gets so big that it factions off.
Yeah.
And so what you end up with is like an A group, B group, C group kind of scenario, and that's what we ended up with.
The natural dynamic is 3 to 4 people,
Yeah.
potentially 6.
Yeah, and I think that translates really well to bike packing, because once you get beyond 4 to 6, you might as well have 10 to 12, almost, because you're inevitably going to break into separate
Right.
groups. But I always find it's way better to have an even number than odd number. Just especially when you get to smaller numbers, like 3 people, not bad. 4 people is a little bit better, but it depends on all the variables there. But when we drug everybody through Wood Ape Ramble, we had 11 people. I don't know why, but I think it was 11 people. I mean, and we had dipshits that didn't download the route. And
Right.
so they got lost. And we're looking for them or waiting for them, and we don't have cell reception.
Right.
So it became a joke almost, like, hey, and we'll go, and even when I've ridden with you before, like when we went and met up with Josh, I'm like, I think I said it a couple of times. Did you even download the route? That's been this like rolling joke ever since then, because we lost guys for an hour and a half because they just didn't have the route, went the wrong way, and who knows how they figured out they were in the wrong place.
Right.
I think we finally got in touch with them or something, but still, it's little shit like that you have to prevent against,
Right. And that's
or somebody forgets to bring something, or I had a minor mechanical that turned major because I was a freaking idiot and just lost all my protocols. I had a flat, didn't check my tire for a thorn, put a tube in, had another flat, ran through resources way too quick, way too early in the trip, and that's also become almost a running joke. Like,
Yeah.
hey, you sure you checked that for thorns?
Yeah.
So.
And that's one of those. And that's so when things go sideways, that's always. It's never one thing that takes things sideways.
Yeah.
It's that cascade effect.
Sure.
And when you get frustrated, and again, that's the anxiety aspect of it. When your judgment becomes clouded,
Yeah.
and you do stupid shit.
Yeah.
And that's when things go sideways. And you do stupid shit because you get anxious about, well, I don't want to do anything stupid. And then next thing you know, you're doing something stupid. So
Kevin, you got to let that shit go, man.
No, I do. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I've learned in those situations, always just take that step back and decompress before, it's like things are starting to go sideways. It's time to just sit on my ass for 35 seconds and do nothing.
Yeah, I had an old man that used to tell me all the time, sometimes in order to speed up, you have to slow down. Yeah. And, it's one of those little kernels of knowledge that you kind of store it away, and it kind of makes sense, but the longer you chew on it, the more it makes sense. And I find myself in that position, especially like in a kitchen or in a bike packing environment or, route finding. When you get panicked and flustered, you feed into that snowball effect, and I find that if you do just take that 20-30 seconds of reflection, you can make a lot more poised decisions, and it prevents it from just spiraling out of control, and also, if you just think about contingencies ahead of time, a lot of people just point and hope, like say, hey, we're going to go ride from here to here. And if I'm always of the mindset, like even in the kitchen, like we're getting screwed, something is going to go wrong. Where are our pain points? Like what is the most obvious thing that could go wrong? And what am I going to do if that happens? Sometimes it's just internal dialogue,
I always identify my worst case scenario.
Yes. And even if it doesn't occur, you're better off for having that thought process.
Yes.
Not necessarily that you need to be paranoid.
No.
But as long as you're contingency minded, you're always going to be better suited. Because if you encounter the situation that you've contemplated, you're better off for it because you at least have contemplated it to the point where you have an idea of how you're going to handle it. Now, granted, real-time scenarios never happen the way we craft them in our minds, but it's a great thought exercise.
I mean, it's a totally different scenario to be blindsided by your worst case scenario versus, oh, here's my worst case scenario that I thought about that I still don't have a solution for.
Yeah.
But at least I'm cognizant of, yeah, I knew this could happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a complete mind shift there.
Yeah.
And man, we could go way down this.
I'm a very contingency oriented person when it comes to bike packing, when it comes to cooking, especially big case scenario cooking. I'm always thinking, well, what if my chickens don't show up? Whatever it is, and that came from one of my mentors that just instilled that in me. But I think it's important. I think a lot of people don't have that thought process,
Yeah, be prepared isn't necessarily having every single tool and every single inventory item and for every potential situation. Be prepared is just be aware, be mentally prepared.
Well, and also knowing how to what's the word? Like Josh Dean was on a ride with us, and he was having shifting issues. We weren't far from here, but we were far enough that we weren't coming back to resolve his issue. It turns out his cassette was loose. Nobody had a cassette tool. So I was like, okay, I can't remember what we use now. I'm trying to think. But either way,
what is a trailside fix for a loose cassette?
We took two different Allen wrenches and put them in the splines, and then used another wrench to spin it. So you had two small Allen wrenches going into splines on the opposite side, and then we stuck another.
Is that a two-person operation or a three-person?
Oh, it was a two-person operation, 100%.
Well, I know it's two at least.
Yeah, it may have been three, but I mean we were all stopped. Assisting.
The odd number pans out every once in a while.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm a firm believer. I go the other. When you said you think even numbers, I think odd numbers work out better myself.
Well, I always think of partnering. Like if
but you can partner three people. It's not a third wheel.
That's true.
Here's in my experience anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where the odd person actually pays off. Somewhere you come across a crossroads, and it's a group decision.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
You gotta have a way to win the vote. Yeah. Anyway, I think we're deep enough into this one. We got some stuff we need to talk about offline.
Okay.
All right, man?
All right. Sounds good.